Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we're filming somewhere a little bit differently. I really wanted to film in front of my bookcase for my book reviews because I just thought it fit into the vibe better. If you're familiar with my channel, I literally make all my videos in my sunroom or in my garden. And I have like maybe 2 or 3 in my schoolroom downstairs. Other than that, it's my sunroom or my garden, just because that's where the better lighting is. So I have all the windows opened and my dining room light on, and I hope the lighting is okay. We shall see, but let me know if you guys like the bookshelf vibe, my diffuser going and everything for this little book review. But without further ado, let's just jump right in. So let me pull up Storygraph. As you guys know, Storygraph is my favorite. That's where I keep track of all my reading. I read 8 books in the month of February, so I'm at 19 books for the year. So I'm 32% of the way to my reading goal, which is 60 books. Just crazy that I've read so many already. And then I read 3 physical, listened to 3 audio, and then I read 2 on my Kindle. So let's go ahead and just start with the audiobooks. So the first one up that I listened to is They Called Me a Lioness, A Palestinian Girl's Fight for Freedom by Ahmed Tamimi. And this one is a memoir, so I don't usually rate memoirs because I don't think it's fair for me to like rate someone when they're writing about their own story, if that makes sense. Like when you're writing and creating a fantasy story, it's one thing for me to critique it, but I don't know, maybe that's just my personal opinion. I just don't like giving ratings to memoirs. But it was very eye-opening, and it kind of makes you angry when you find out certain injustices that are happening and like you can't do anything about it. So I liked reading it, but it also made me very angry reading it, and I had to take it in like little spurts. It was only, I think, like a 5.5 hour listen, but I guess I had to take it in tiny increments because some of the parts were pretty graphic. I will say that she does get into some graphic details of some stuff that happened, just as a warning, but other than that, I would definitely listen to it if you haven't already. The next one I listened to was The Fine Print, Dreamland Billionaires #1. I'm waiting to listen to #2. I have it on hold, or I'm in the wait list for Libby. I gave this one a 3.75 stars, and hold on, let me see what my review is. Okay, so I put it's a good grumpy sunshine trope. I feel like it could have cut out the middle a little and focused more on what happened in the ending / epilogue, and it's a 4 out of 5 on the spice level. Okay, I will say, guys, I was just like, what is this? And I was listening to it too, which makes it, I feel like when you're listening to books, it makes it harder to skip, because when you're reading a physical book, you can just kind of skim and see where it ends. But like some of the spice, I was just like, oh, okay, let's just get that over a little bit. It was, like I said, 4 out of 5 on the spice level. So if that's something you're not comfortable with, then I would just keep that in mind when reading this book. But yeah, like I said, it is a very good grumpy sunshine trope. I like the grumpy sunshine tropes because honestly it reminds me of my husband and I. Because not that he's a grump, he's just more, he's very reserved. He's very reserved and very quiet. He's not a social person at all. And then me, on the other hand, here I am on freaking YouTube putting myself on the internet. Like, he would never do that. So I don't know, those grumpy sunshine tropes remind me of my husband and I. So I really like those. But that overall, it was a good story. Let me read you the plot of it. So it's told from a dual point of view, Rowan and Zara. Rowan, it says, I'm in the business of creating fairy tales, theme parks, production companies, 5-star hotels. Everything could all be mine if I renovated Dreamland. My initial idea of hiring Zara was good in theory, but then I kissed her. Things spiraled out of control once I texted her using an alias. By the time I realized where I went wrong, it was too late. People like me don't get happy endings, not when we're destined to ruin them. Zara. After submitting a drunk proposal criticizing Dreamland's most expensive ride, I should have been fired. Instead, Roman Kane offered me a dream job. The catch? I had to work for the most difficult boss I'd ever met. Roman was rude and completely off limits, but my heart didn't care, at least not until I discovered his secret. It was time to teach the billionaire that money couldn't fix everything, especially not us. So yes, like I said, very mature themes in this book. It's kind of like a adult Disneyland book, I guess you could say, because Dreamland, like when you're listening to the things that happened at Dreamland, it's basically like Disneyland. So I would say it's like an adult Disney story kind of vibe, if that makes sense. And obviously Zara works in the park, and Rowan, his family owns the company, so they are the Walt Disneys in this book. But yeah, so I gave it 3.75, lots of spice, lots of drama, if that's your kind of thing. And yeah, so that was called The Fine Print. The next one, let's move to oh no, I have one more on audio, sorry. The next one is Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes, and I gave that a 3.5 stars. Let me see. Okay, so it took me a while to start liking this book because I didn't like the majority of the characters, but the ending really saved it for me because it gave the characters a good ending. And I don't know about you guys, but the ending of a book is the end all for me, because it could be a 5-star read, and if the ending is terrible, like that's it, you just tanked the rating for me. And same thing if like the book is mediocre but it wraps up pretty well, then I'll give it a higher rating, and I think that's why I gave this one 3.5 stars. I think without the ending, it probably would have been a 2.75 or even a 3-star for me. But like I said, I do like how everything wrapped up, and it's told from a dual perspective from Sam and Nisha. And it says, Sam Kemp, in the bleakest point of her life, has accidentally taken Nisha's gym bag. But Sam hardly has the time to worry about a lost gym bag. She's struggling to keep herself and her family afloat. When she tries on Nisha's 6-inch high Christian Louis Vuitton red crocodile shoes, the resulting jolt of confidence that makes her realize something must change, and that thing is herself. Nisha Cantor lives the globetrotting life of the seriously wealthy until her husband announces a divorce and cuts her off. Nisha is determined to hang on to her glamorous life, but in the meantime, she must scramble to cope. She doesn't even have the shoes she was until a moment ago standing in. So, and the question is, who are you when you're forced to walk in someone else's shoes? In this day and age, people can be very self-absorbed and only think about themselves and not think about the perspectives of other people or the way other people are living. So I think it was a wake-up call for Nisha, who's the socialite, to get knocked off her high horse and to go from, being waited on to doing the waiting for people. It was a little lengthy for me. I feel like the middle part of the story kind of dragged on a little bit. But other than that, it was like a nice quick read or a quick listen for me. I didn't have it on hold or anything like that. It was just one of those that were available on Libby, so I was like, oh, I'll try it out. I don't think I've ever read Jojo Moyes. And I might read another book of hers, but like I said, this one was a 3.5, and it was okay. So next up is on my Kindle, and the first one is The Girl in Cabin 13 by AJ Rivers. This one I actually rented from Prime Reading, so I did make a video about that. But if you pay for an Amazon Prime membership, you do get Prime Reading for free included. And The Girl in Cabin 13 was one of those books that I read on there. And I gave it a 3.75. And it's a mystery murder whodunit kind of thing. And I kind of guessed who the suspect was from the beginning, but I just did not see the extent of everything that ended up happening, if that makes sense. Like, while I was reading, I was like, it's them, I know it, and I knew it was, and then there was like a slight moment of doubt for me, and I was like, no, it's them for sure. And but then like it breaks down everything that this guy did, and I was just like, oh, now that I didn't see coming for sure. I enjoyed the twist. The ending was kind of a cliffhanger, and I hate cliffhangers. Like, I was just kind of like, is it? I mean, there's more in this series, and I get that it's like a 13 book series or something like that, but I just personally don't like cliffhangers at all. I don't like them. They ruin it. So this one, yeah, I enjoyed the twists. I knew who the person was, but like I said, I think it's just because I read a lot of thriller mystery books, so I kind of pick up on things quickly in that aspect. But yeah, I would have wanted a more cohesive ending to that book, but it wasn't too bad. The next one is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. And y'all know, if you've watched any of my videos, I love Frida McFadden thrillers. I think it's nice. They're really nice to read, particularly if you're in a reading slump, because they're quick. They're quick paced, which I love. They usually have multiple twists in there that you don't really suspect, and this book indeed had that. There was a lot of twists to this storyline that I didn't expect. But I only gave this a 3 stars. And honestly, without some of the twists adding to the story and the way the story ended, it probably would have gotten a 2 stars. And like I said, she's one of my favorite authors, and it came with all the twists that I usually expect from her, but I could not get over Addie and Nate's relationship, okay? So Addie and Nate, Addie is the student, Nate is the teacher. She's 16. He's 38, 39, something like that. And she tried to frame it where like the age of consent is 16 in their state, and I'm just like, I don't give a sugar honey iced tea if that's the age of consent. It's disgusting, okay? It's gross. I don't like it. So yeah, I couldn't get over their relationship, and it really bugged me the entire time, especially since Nate was married. So not only was he in a relationship with Addie, he was also married and cheating on his wife, but she was also cheating on him. It's just a whole circle, and I don't like it. I don't like it. It made me feel some type of way. But yeah, if you like Frida McFadden's writing, then you can try reading it. But honestly, Addie and Nate's relationship just gave me the ick, and I couldn't get over it. And I'll get off my high horse with that. So the next 3 books that I read were all physical books, guys, and I'm finally caught up on all of my book of the month reads 70 years later. I got behind during the holidays, but thank you January and February for letting me catch up, because now I have 3 to talk about. So my December one was No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall, and this is my second book by her. Yeah, because the first one I read was What Lies in the Woods. They have very similar covers. But yeah, so this one was my December book of the month read, and I gave this one a 3.75 stars. So this one was about 3 sisters. 3 sisters, 2 murders, and too many secrets to count. So 14 years ago, the 3 sisters' parents were murdered, and it's basically trying to untangle the night and all the lies that happened that long ago. Because basically it happened, and then the sisters stopped communicating with each other. So for 14 years, they didn't talk to each other. And when one of them, Emma, is married and expecting, long story short, her and her husband were approved for a house, but then he lost his job, so they weren't able to make it to close, and they had to get out of their apartment. So since their parents still owned this estate in their names, they decided to just go there until they figured it out, and that's kind of how the whole thing began to unfold, where you find out everything that happened. And it's told from all 3 sisters' point of view. So it's a triple narration and also a dual timeline. So it has present sisters and then past sisters. So present Emma, Juliet, and Daphne, and then past Emma, Juliet, and Daphne. So I said I did like this story, even though I kind of knew who the killer was. I just didn't expect all the turns that it came with, and I also didn't like the ending, so it lost some points for that. I don't think there's anything that annoys me more than when I spend all this time reading the book and then the ending's just meh. You know what I mean? So if you like thrillers, go ahead and give it a read. It wasn't the worst thriller I've ever read. I gave it a 3.75, but I just didn't like the ending. And I know some people really don't like dual timelines, so if you don't like that, keep that in mind with this book as well. The next one is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. It's Greek, I know that much. I'm probably not saying it right. And this is my third book that I've read by him. I think this is his third book overall, and I gave it a 3.75 stars. I liked the style of narration that he does, and Alex is very good at this as an author, where instead of you just reading someone's like a story from outside looking in, like he's talking to the reader directly. And I really like that style of writing because it makes you feel more involved. So I definitely like that. And I also like how the chapters are shorter. But it also makes it harder to put down because you're just flipping right through the pages. So you're just like, oh, I can read another chapter, and then the chapter is like 3 pages. You're like, oh, I can read 3 more chapters, and then you end up flying through the book because it's like so short and condensed. So the con to this book was that all of the characters were unlovable in my opinion. I didn't like any of them, honestly, and I did predict the ending, but I think it's because I realized Alex's writing style. Like I said, this is my third book of his, and I kind of saw it coming in a way. I just didn't see it happening the way that it did, which seems to be a theme with the books I've read this month. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna chalk that up to me being familiar with Alex's writing style. But I did like it. I think I didn't like this one as much as I liked The Silent Patient, wherever it is. Here it is. This one was his debut novel, and it's the first one I read of him, and I flew through it. It was such a quick read for me because I loved it, and I did not see the ending that happened with that one. And then the second one he had is The Maidens, which I rented from the library to read, and yeah, so not as much as The Silent Patient. I really enjoyed that one. That was probably my favorite read of his, but this one was still a good read as well. Last book I read was The Resort, and this is her debut novel, Sarah Oakes. And it actually has 2 different titles. So in the UK, it's called The Dive, and then here in the US, it's called The Resort, which I thought was interesting. And this one I gave a 4.25 stars. I think that might be my highest. Yeah, it's my highest rated read for this month. And it's told from a dual perspective. Again, it's told from Cass and what's her name, Brooke's perspectives, and it's about the welcome to the paradise. We hope you survive your stay. There are 3 rules to following a vacation during the famous Kosong resort. 1, leave the past behind. 2, always be careful with who you trust. And 3, if someone discovers who you really are, run. Anyway, so yeah, I rated this a 4.25. I said it was an easy whodunit to read. I thought I knew what it was, then I thought I was wrong, but alas, I was right. The ending made me want a sequel, diving more into the killer's future, but overall, it was a good debut novel. And with this one, I would mention several trigger warnings, SA, grape, because you know we can't say the real word on the YouTube platform, suicide ideation, self-harm, and murder. So those are just some, and it's like graphic, some of the things that happen, so just keep that in mind if you're not into that sort of thing. But I thought this was a very good debut novel. That's it, guys, for my February reads. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know any books that you read this month, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.